Hey, in this video I will introduce you to CE marking requirements for Amazon sellers. So the big question, is CE marking mandatory for Amazon sellers? Um, this depends on whether your product needs to be CE marked in the EU. Okay, so in short, products that require CE marking in the EU must be CE marked to be sold on Amazon's European marketplaces. Okay, now the next question is which regulations require a CE mark, and you see a few examples here. You can also find that in the article on our website, and a lot more content related to regulations and CE marking. But Amazon does obviously not require the CE mark on products that must not otherwise be CE marked in the European Union. So, which products require CE marking? Big ones: consumer electronics, toys, helmets, sunglasses, certain types of gloves, protective equipment, machinery, medical devices. The list is longer than this, but just to give you an idea. Which Amazon marketplaces require CE marking? And as said, the CE mark it's a requirement in the EU, meaning that you don't need the CE mark to sell products on Amazon in the United States, for example, or Australia for that matter. Um, the big in the EU so far is the German one, .de, IT for Italy, France.fr, and also, lately, where I come from in Sweden, Amazon.se. That said, it's so far required on Amazon.co.uk, even though the UK is no longer in the EU. This could change. They are introducing, I think, called the UKCA, the UK compliance mark. Um, right now, I don't know if they even announced when the CE mark may not be accepted in the UK, if ever. But something to take into consideration. But the CE mark is still a thing in the UK, including when you sell on Amazon.co.uk. So, what does Amazon? How do they verify? How do they request documentation? Let's say that Amazon is not actually taking products outside the box and looking, okay, is this CE marked or not? No, they don't approach it like that. Instead, what they do request is compliance documents, documents proving or supporting that your product is in fact compliant with the requirements. So it takes a lot more than just CE marking the product. Number one, you may need lab test reports. You also need declaration of conformity, technical file, although that is rare that Amazon is actually requesting that, and the user manual, and also a couple of other things, product images, sometimes even supplier invoices. But first I want to show you what a Amazon CE compliance check, complicated term, might actually look like. So this one is from Amazon Selling Partner Support, and in this case they are trying to, start selling a new product, and they have requested, but they have submitted some documentation, but Amazon is now asking for more information, or actually rejecting some of that. So Amazon may have, in this case, received a test report, because they don't mention that, and it seems that they accepted that. They may also have received a declaration of conformity, which they perhaps also accepted because they do not mention that. However, they do make a remark about the invoice, indicating that the compliance documents are held by a different company. Okay, so the Amazon seller is perhaps in this case providing a test report and declaration of conformity from a manufacturer in Shenzhen in China, for example. So the two different company names, and Amazon wants to see a supplier invoice. That's just speculation from my side, but otherwise I don't see why they would request a invoice like this. This one is more straightforward. Amazon is requesting product packaging images. They deem that the product packaging is not correctly labeled, and that's another typical thing, a typical pitfall, as CE marking and other labeling requirements not just apply to the product itself but also to the packaging. So they request images in this specific case, and in this case I don't think there's much to do, because what this implies is that the seller has tried to start selling a product, or they have been subject to a compliance check after the fact, and they have, yeah, the documents that they have provided are rejected, and the cargo is already in a Amazon FBA fulfillment center. So to relabel the packaging and repack, that's incredibly expensive. Now let's dig a bit deeper and see, look into what must be taken into consideration when it comes to these documents, because there's so much that can go wrong. Lab test reports. When Amazon requests a lab test report, they expect the SKU, the product name, to match. You can't submit a test report for product A that's actually valid for product B, obviously. The company name must match, or there must be a link between the two, which is why the supplier invoice was likely requested in the previous email I just showed you. Okay, so if your company name is Ecom Seller Limited, and you provide a test report from some company called, say, Dongguan Great Products Company Limited in China, then, well, it's a different company name, so that's not always allowed either. When it comes to CE compliance, the very foundation is that your product complies with certain EN standards or other safety standards. They're often the case that you have more than one that your product must comply with and must therefore be tested according to. So Amazon doesn't accept any test report at face value. They want to see that your test reports, depends, could be one, could be more, cover all mandatory regulations and standards for your product, okay? And that cannot be taken for granted if you obtain test reports from your supplier. They may also reject unknown testing companies, a bunch of these random testing companies that I see test reports issued by all the time, and yeah, I would say that I see a new company name every week. There are some shady companies out there that, well, you never know, it's very hard to prove, but companies that are said to be basically selling test results, not actually doing any testing. It's possible that in the future Amazon will only accept test reports from certain accredited companies, which is also already the case for some categories. Okay, the second one is the declaration of conformity. This is a self-issued document in most cases, meaning that you as the importer or an exporting manufacturer will issue this document. You need to include SKU, product features, company information, list of standards, location, and responsible individual. These are some examples, maybe more information required. Once again, Amazon expects that the information on the DOC will match up with the information on the test report. Otherwise, they are very likely to reject it. Number 3, we have product and packaging images. As said, they want to see visually that your product is correctly labeled. That often means that it must be CE marked. Definitely within the scope of this video, which covers CE markings in particular. Now keep in mind that CE marking directives could be the machinery directive, toy safety directive. They have other requirements. They go beyond the CE mark. So keep in mind that the CE mark may not be enough, and you may need to also get the packaging labeled, not just the product. So yeah, you need to thorough understanding of the labeling requirements, and this is information that you find inside the directives in the texts on the EU website. This is not secret information, obviously. Oh, should cut that slide. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn more about compliance requirements in the EU and the US, you can go to compliancegate.com/tool.